When I came to the UK, I was like, okay, I will become that lawyer, I will become that journalist, but I had a rude awakening.
My guest today is Kameka McLean. She's led transformative HR initiatives across more than 40 countries, delivering multi-million-pound projects that have shaped how organizations think and talk about talent, tech, and culture.
I remember when we were acquiring this business and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And that's the first time that I ever done anything like this. And I was like, how am I going to integrate, I think it was 6,000 individuals across 10 or 12 locations.
She's now the group head of HR at Walker Crips, where she brings that strategy into the executive realm of things and merges strategy and culture.
But within HR, a lot of people see us as the enemy. Like, there's no way she has any integrities. What people fail to realize, it would have been 100 times worse if I wasn't around. I am the person who is awake at 1, 2 o'clock in night, firing off emails to say a decision isn't right. They need to consider alternative options. When individual start a campaign and the back of something very negative, once you put it down to just race and men against women and brutality or whatever the case may be, I'm sorry to say you're going to fail, because it's much more than that. It wasn't fully thought out. People was not truly supported in some organizations. They thought it was tick box exercise.
What's the biggest thing that you've had to unlearn to help you really grow?
Oh dear, you know what?
If you've ever worked and wondered what it looks like when someone brings both strategy and heart to the table, you're about to find out. Kameka, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity as well. And I'm doing great. Smile does everything for you, no matter the challenges you're facing. Always have to keep a smile, right? Because smile goes a long way for yourself and for others as well. Is what you portray to others, to be honest.
Indeed. It's a great way to disarm people, I guess, and just to help them
Exactly.
to let their guard down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I was to go back, because I always like to start from the beginning to understand people's origin stories.
Hmm.
If I go back to your early years, around 8, when you were still in Jamaica, what would I find that would help me understand who you are now a lot better?
Right. So I came into the UK when I was 16. So when I was 8 years old, I was in Jamaica in Maypen. Moved 2 years prior to that from Portmore, where we live in a family house, a big family housing complex. So that was really hard for me, just moving out of the family home where my grandmothers, my cousins, my aunties, and everyone was living in different part of the community. It's like,
Mm,
put it this way, it's like Buckingham Palaces with different houses within, but not as elaborate, of course, as that. And then moving into a 1.5 bedroom house with your parents, and my parents got me a dog. So, you know, but what stands out is I always believe I had a purpose. I don't
mm,
know what that purpose looked like, in the sense that we were quite poor,
mm,
but I knew that with the experience I've seen around me since as long as I could remember, probably about 6 years old. I even remember when I was about 2 years old. Believe that couple of incidents that happened when I was 2 years old. It's kind of shaped my mind, because when you're exposed to violence, when you're exposed to death and seeing accident happens, you don't want to let that happen to you.
yeah.
So I would say from I was about 8 years old, going to primary school, I went to Maypen Primary School. I always says, they asked me a question once at school, do you have a role model? And I was like, oh no, I don't really have a role model. Um, but I don't want that to happen to me like what's happened to my next door neighbor, sort of thing. So I start framing this thinking as to I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm going to make different decisions. I'm going to do different things from a very tender age. And I was an only child. And that evolved when I was 10, when my brother came along. It gave me that protective instinct to said,
Mm,
okay, I definitely don't want certain things to happen to him either. My dad used to travel a lot, so it's just my mom and myself because he traveled for work between the UK, Cayman Islands, etc. And he would be gone for a long period of time. So I always had that protective instinct and not wanting certain things to happen to me, nor my brother and my brothers as they came along over the years. So that's what my life looked like. It sounds really sad because that's not the ultimate childhood that you would want for anyone. And I made sure that the childhood of my children was way better than mine. I made them live and experience and enjoy life and not having too many responsibility. Not that responsibility is a bad thing, but I felt like from a tender age I took on a lot, to be honest.
How do you remember what happened to you at 2? Like, I'm like, struggling to remember what happened last week, let alone 2. Like,
It's
how do you
because
remember that?
the slap I got embedded a memory on me. Oh my God. Oh dear. When I was 2 years old, I don't know. I've always been talkative, and I will tell you the story. Right? My mom is the nicest person that you've ever met in your life. We're the opposite. She's not a talker. Everybody in the family and the community loves her, and you know what Jamaica is like. So I overheard my uncles and my cousin talking that somebody stole someone's bike,
Oh, boy.
and that person who they said stole the bike, he used to always tease me. And I was like, please don't call me, don't touch me, because you stole the people's bike. 2 years old. And I remember my mom does not really slap me, but I got a slap that remind me. And my mom continuously saying, don't do what you did at 2 years old when you said that. Don't do that. Don't ever do it. So that's why I remember when I was two, that
Hey.
incident.
Yep, that's a memory. That's a memory that was there with you for
Exactly,
sure.
exactly, exactly.
You talk about having those responsibilities from a very young age, and I always say that a lot of what we go through in our younger years shape us and inform how we think and how we show up in our older life. So, how much of even just looking and caring for your brother, having the responsibilities, how much did that really shape what then became your career when it comes to you caring about people? Was it just a natural flow through based on where you came from, or was it something else?
I would say it's a mixture in the sense, growing up in Jamaica and coming to the UK at 16 years old, it was a rude awakening, to be honest, to say the least, because I did not expect to have those challenges. This is not, in Jamaica we watch a lot of American programs. Um, we know that America probably wouldn't be the right place for us to migrate because of the entrenched negative attitude towards certain individuals, but we always thought that the UK was different. Um, so when I came to the UK, I was like, okay, these are my morals, these are my values, these are my ambition. I do great. I will break down barriers. I will become that lawyer. I will become that journalist. I will become all I want to be. The world is my oyster, but I had a rude awakening. So as much as I had my values and my ethics embedded in me from a young age, it didn't start out really nice for myself because my dad migrated back to the UK. And I think education is key in anything that you do. But my
Mm,
dad preempted a wrong situation in the sense he thought that he could have got me over here. I did all of my studies in Jamaica, got my results, got really good results, and it was the aim for me to come over and go to college.
mm.
Well, when my dad tried to sign me up for college, I was like, oh, she's on a visitor's visa. You need to sort out her papers. But my dad was like, well, I'm British, so why do you need to do I? It automatically goes to her because she's under 18
Yeah,
years
no,
old.
yeah.
They was like, that's not how it works. You have to go to the home office, blah, blah, blah. My dad did not even know that. He was not educated in the immigration's rules or the immigration laws at the time. And by the time he submitted my paper and they sent a decision, and back in the days, it was like a year, and then you have to send it back again. It just took so long that. I just gave up. I start working to help my parents because now my brothers, I had three brothers by then. My mom brought them over to the UK and we all relocate, and the immigration process took a very long time. So I gave up on furthering to become a lawyer and a journalist, etc., and decided to help my parents because, it was very hard for them. And that's when I realized that there was not much of me in the workforce, especially in HR, a job that I accidentally fall upon, which, if you want to hear the story, I'm happy to share. And as much as I had those morals, those values, and that motivation embedded into me, I felt like I didn't belong at all. And I just felt out of place. And I was thinking, oh, it's not as I expected it to be. And it's not as easy as I thought it would be. And who can I turn to for support or help, etc. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult. At one point, I was like, oh, probably I'm not cut out for this. Probably I can't change the world. Probably I can't, make those changes and have an effect on society and the community that I would like to have. Am I doing the right thing? So there's been moments that I really question whether, this is for me.
Wow. I'm just thinking about both of the elements of what you just mentioned right now, of even you going from being only child to having three younger brothers to then moving countries and things not being set up in the way that you wanted, to then completely change your approach to, rather than going into studies, now you're having to work and support or contribute to the family, but then do that in an environment that doesn't represent you. How did you handle all those different elements at still a very young age? Because you were
Hmm.
16, 17. That's a lot to still be able to process, handle, go through, and still function and do what needs to be done.
And again, it goes back to what I said from a young age. I always says, I don't really have any role models, but I've seen situations that I would never want it to happen to me. That was kind of my motivation as to, okay, right, this is the situation. I have two parents who none of them have gone to universities or even college. My mom got pregnant with me at a young age. I don't want that to happen to me. I want to break that barrier, or that everybody in my mom's family had children young, and I was like, that's not going to happen to me at all. Right, I'm not going to be a teenage mom. So my priority there, I resolved that. The second thing, I said to myself, I'm not going to do blue collar work for the rest of my life, because that will not give me the lifestyle that I needed, and that would not give my brothers the lifestyle that they need. I would like to be able to buy stuff for my brothers and for them to have a better life than I am, because they still had the chance to have a good life in the sense. So my brothers actually became my main motivation in doing better and becoming better. And I realized that I was like, okay, I can't go to university at this particular time, but let me start doing some courses. I started working as an HR advisor. I was doing quite HR admin. I was doing quite well, so the manager took a liking to me, and I went on some NVQ level. I think it was level. You remember NVQ level one, two,
I
three?
do.
I went through all of them, and I did that just to upskill myself. And I said at some point I want to go back and do my degree, because I think I'm more than capable of doing that. I was always a top performers in school, etc. So I have to really unpack and have a plan as to how am I going to achieve these things whilst helping my parents support um, three children. And then my mom decided to have another one. I was like, oh my God. And none of them were girls. I'm the only girl. I was like, oh my God, four boys. So yeah, yeah. The insult, right? No girl, but boys. So anyway, I said to myself, okay, oh my God, um, my plans keep changing, but I was always resolute in developing myself and, reading extensively and how I could become a better HR professional, because I've been in HR since I was 16 years old,
Mm.
by chance, as I say. And I just knew that I could actually use being in HR to effect positive changes within organization. So I start realizing, the potential of being an HR professional. And that kind of helped me to stay grounded and use as a motivational factor to move to move my mindset to say, okay, I will achieve. It might take some time, but I have a plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to continuously update my knowledge, and being that role model for my brothers, and making sure that anything that they need, I can also contribute to that.
How did it feel getting your degree in 2013 and then getting your master's in 2024, so just last year? Like,
Yeah.
thinking about the journey you just described right now, I just kind of want to fast forward, like, you actually finally accomplishing getting that degree and a master's on top of that. How did that feel?
It felt so good. It felt like an accomplishment, something that I always wanted to do. And I mainly did it for my children. And the second reason I did it was for my mom, because my mom passed away in 2018. So I'm sorry, 2009. I wish it was 2018. That mean I would have had more time. So again, I always use negative things to drive, or when I did have my children, I wanted to be that role model that I never had. My parents did the best that they could, and I love my parents. But I never had role models. I wanted to be the role model for my children. So I said, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to achieve it for my children's sake, so that I can lay those foundation to them, for them to say, Mommy done it. She had her odd life, so of course I can do it too.
Love that. You mentioned that you're very value driven. That's something that you've not mentioned a number of times. I'm curious, like, what are those values for you that you utilize to guide you?
Right. So first and foremost, I was brought up in the church, right? So I would say when it comes to honesty and integrity, you would never find anybody like me. It doesn't matter how hard the truth is, I would always tell you that, to the point that it gets me in trouble. So I would say my Christianity is the foundation of everything I do. I'm not perfect, but there is some really good principle within the Bible. It tells you about patience. It tells you about long suffering. It tells you about moving in a certain direction. And once you start moving in the right direction as directed by God, then things, you can see the bigger picture, and then you don't feel alone. And that's, all this time I never felt I was alone, even when I was, because I had those values instill in me to say, you know what, God is with you all the time. Speak to God about everything that you're going through. So this is why I said I didn't really have role models, but I could speak and pray to God, to express how I'm feeling. And I might not receive an answer like you answering me, but answers came in the shape of other people's, or people around me, family members, pastors, churches, and stuff that I prayed about. So that helped me, to be honest.
Have those values changed from then to now, or have this always
No,
been
no,
foundational to you?
always been honesty and integrity for me. I do have little bits that I encourage people, knowing that they have powers, and impossible mean impossible, etc., which we can delve a bit deeper in. But I just think that once there is honesty, that means there is love. Once there's integrity, it means that you're grounded in a foundation that is unshakable. People might say, oh, I would say love and charity. But once you have integrity, and once you have honesty, with what's going on in the world, if you're honest, you know that it needs fixing. So it all forms into love, and all these bigger words, and all what is described, like in the Bible, when it talks about love is patient, blah blah blah. There is a foundation for all of that. And I can't really put into one words, but those two words mean so much more than what it means to other individuals, to me.
When I think about words like love, honesty, integrity, and obviously your biblical foundation in there, And then I think about the profession that you're in, which is obviously HR. There are times when people can be like, we're talking about love, honesty, integrity. Like HR are very, they hide everything from people. You can't trust them. You can't rely on them. They don't go out for people. How do you bring those two worlds together when you know your heart, you know your approach, you know the values that you lead with, yet you're still hearing all these noise, which I'm sure you get from the work that you do from people. How do you merge those two areas together?
I would say, first and foremost, it doesn't matter how much love, empathy, support you display or have in place. People always be unhappy about something. And once you realize that you cannot fix everything, and as long as you know that any decision that you have made is rooted in integrity and honesty, then you should not worry about it. I would say, um, everybody I work with, I have respect for them. Whenever I'm dealing with them, I make sure that I practice integrity and honesty, right? But within HR, a lot of people see us as the enemy. Like, there's no way she has any integrities. But what people fail to realize, it would have been 100 times worse if I wasn't around, right? I am the person who is awake at 1, 2 o'clock in night, firing off emails to say a decision isn't right. They need to consider alternative options. Have they thought about this? Have they thought about that? Are we thinking about it holistically, collaboratively? Are we using profitability over what is right and what is best for the employees, right? And for the company as well. I'm the person who's saying, okay, if you make this decision, this is what it will cost us in legal costs if you make the wrong decision. Not only in legal costs, but also can get the organization into very bad disrepute and the reputation damage, reputational damage. So be very careful in y- how you approach certain issues and problems. So I do not hold back when business are making difficult decision. I always paint a picture as, okay, this is the worst case scenario if we make the wrong decision, if we not follow through in the right way, if we do not follow the right process, etc. And and I would say working like that has been successful for me. Does it make me unpopular with senior leadership team? Absolutely. They think I am difficult. They think I don't follow instructions. I've been labeled a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I've always embedded in my head, you know do not let anyone question me maintaining my integrity. And as long as I'm maintaining my integrity, you have no right to question it. These are, if you want it to be streamlined, this is a decision that you need to make. This is a process you have to follow. If you're not following the process, unfortunately, I cannot deliver that news. I cannot do that because it goes against my integrity, go against me as a person. And I don't want to be personally sued because I've worked really hard than most people that I know to get into the position that I am in today.
That's fair enough. And it's interesting to hear you take that stance of like, I don't lead into what the company wants first, but this is more around my personal beliefs, my guiding compass, my values being what I lead with first as the way I make decisions. I never want that to be compromised. So it's quite good to hear you say that because I think so many people, I think we were saying at the start, like can easily forget the human behind the
Exactly.
title or the position.
Exactly.
But actually, when you remember that, then you think, okay, how do I what do I know about this person that helps me to recognize how they're making those decisions? Because there are times when decisions have to be made and they're tough. But that's the
Exactly.
business. But that doesn't necessarily mean
Mhm.
that the person's integrity is being questioned. Because that person's in that position, they're trying to do the right thing for an organization as a whole. It just means that you might be the one feeling that impact sometimes.
Exactly.
You are 16 years old, brand new to the country, no degree, no experience. How do you end up landing a job, your first HR job at the Times Publishing Limited? How did that go about?
So Times Publication Limited is not Times newspaper at that time.
Oh.
Times Publication Limited was a African and Caribbean black publications in which they buy hats
Hmm.
within
I didn't even know
within
this.
yes, in which they buy had advertising companies, black companies, business, African businesses, investments, etc. It was run by a gentleman called James Norris, and he was a CEO, and he's actually from Jamaica. So yes, you would never think that he was from Jamaica. The day I met him, I didn't. He realized I was Jamaican because I had the Jamaican accent, but I could never have thought that he was from Jamaica. So the beginning of my story was good because I was following my aunt to an interview for a cleaning job in the building in Barrow near Borough High Street,
Hmm.
or just further on from Borough High Street, and I met this gentleman in a lift who seems frustrated, and I asked him, what's happening? Are you okay? Because he looked really upset. And he was like, "Oh, young lady, you're polite to ask. I'm okay. Somebody stood me up for an interview, and I wasted my time. I put a lot of effort in it." And I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for a job to help my parents." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Do you want to interview for the role?" And I was like, "Yes." That's how I got into HR. So. James pushed me to the limit. He trained me. I was educated in knowing the struggles of businesses within the organization. The company got a little bit bigger, and there was a lot of sales individuals, but it was just James and I. There was nobody other than James who looks like James and I. And James invested a lot with my NVQ level 1, 2, and 3. He was like, "Kamika, you're capable, you're bright, just go for it. I want the best for you. Um, uh, uh, so do the best that you can, because I'd like to see you." He always said, "I'd like to see you as a CHRO for one of those banks, making changes and hiring people through those doors who don't have those opportunities." So James and I could talk about stuff that I wanted to do, and he was on. He's one of the most intellectual people that I've ever met.
Wow.
Um, at that time ever, other than my teachers within primary school when I was going to Jamaica. And we used to bounce ideas around, and I was like, I want to be this, and I want to be that, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And he always like encourages me to, go for it, Kamika, go for it. But as with any journey that starts really good, it was time for me to move on. From James, because I got a role where I believe I could make a difference. So I went into retail then. So, but I would say it's where I've started. It was seen earlier on, the arduous journey and the battle that I had to endure to actually be who I wanted to be as well.
When you have someone like James who sounds like he believed in you and encouraged you and saw so much in you even before you did, how powerful is that?
Yeah, it was powerful. It was powerful coming from him because I really look up to him. And when I was in Jamaica, everybody used to always like, "Oh, you're the brightest person in the family," but that didn't mean anything to me. What can I do with that? I'm studying. My parents are struggling. And when I came to the UK, I was like, "Oh my God, all of my A stars and A's was worth nothing."
Mhm.
I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I'm no one, and I'm nobody," because my qualifications that I've worked hard for, my they call it GCEs, the equivalent over the UK was ridiculous. A A star is like a D. And I was like, "What? Why did my parents work hard and pay extra money to do the GCE at the time if they're going to downgrade my results?" So that really, at one point I was really low, and thinking that I can't do it. So when I met James, and I got a little bit of motivation, but I had to prove myself and show myself that I could do it too, and believe in myself again, and uphold those those fundamental principles I had in my head since I was young, to say, I don't want this to happen to me. this is what I have to do to overcome that.
I love that. I love that phrase where you said you also had to believe in yourself. I think
Mm,
it's very easy for us to give that power to someone else and be like, this person believes in me and I'm going to ride it. And there are times when you actually need to rely on that
mm,
person's faith or belief in you to get you out of that slump. But having that self awareness to recognize that I also need to believe in myself is crucial for all
exactly.
our journeys. And I know you're someone that who believes a lot in mentorship, and you've mentored loads of women all the way throughout your career as well. Was part of that influenced by having someone like James? And I'm guessing you've had obviously had other mentors throughout your career,
Mm.
and therefore for you it's important to give back to those coming up.
Unfortunately, you know, James, I would say James was definitely the best thing that happened to me. But it was hard for James to be the CEO to mentor a HR admin person, right? You know, he encouraged me, etc., and that did a lot to me. But when it comes to HR pairs and when it comes to the HR profession, I've actually never had a mentor. I've never really had a mentor ever in my life, which sounds really sad. But I did not feel confident. There was no HR person that looks like me at all at any organization that I've worked with. So I wasn't comfortable in asking for help and guidance. Everything that I've learned is by reading, by doing, etc. And the reason I do mentorship is because for that very same reason, I did not want anybody to feel alone and on that journey on by themselves. I wanted to be that person to uplift them, to tell them that is going to be okay. You can do it. If I did it, you can. You know, being that person that they can come to for support, help, guidance, and those things. I never had anyone to go for guidance or support. You just see my books on employment law back in the days when the internet was was just barely coming to fruition. So it was extensive reading, reading case laws. Oh my God. It was amazing how much I've learned and how much I digested and was able to apply to organizations that I've worked with just by intensive reading and research.
How about now? Now at the stage in your career that you're in, do
Hmm.
you have a network around you that you can talk to, rely on, have conversations with?
Yeah, I do. Now I do. I have you.
Mhm.
So there you go. And I do have other senior HR network individuals as well, people that I've worked with throughout the years. You know, we meet up and, you know, for brain teaser session, for people just to unwind and vent if they're having a bad day, because the role of HR isn't easy, you know. It can be quite stressful and strenuous. So I do have a network of people now that I'm there for. They're there for me as well, and it works well for me.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's good. And when you think about your journey, all the various roles that you had, and then obviously you took some time out to work for yourself. Do you have a preference between working for yourself and working for a company?
So I love change and transformation. So when I was working for myself, like as a contractor, I really enjoy that. But what I miss is having to let go after you finish that project. So I have from one extreme to the next. Like right now, I'm really missing change and transformations because of the impact that I made in the organization. Everyone is happy, and everyone see the values, the value of doing the, you know, carrying out that project. So whether it be looking at a target operational model, billing and shared services, implementing a software, end to end, you know, of the employee life cycle, they're quite skeptic at first, but when they see it unfolding and it in actions and you're communicating with those individuals, it just make so much difference. And there's less distribute than doing transformation than it is doing working for a company as well. Even though I did work for companies, being employed with companies and managing their HR, that's a whole another kettle of fish. You're not the SME in that position in the sense that you're there to effect those positive changes for the organization to move forward, whilst the role that I'm doing now might seen as a like a deterrent, so it's on a different scale. Like, I'm the gatekeeper of the organizations, and I'm the one who deliver the bad news, sort of thing. So it's one extreme. But if you ask me which I prefer, I would say change and transformation. Mm, any day, anytime. But it's a lonely road, honestly, and you have to say goodbye after you finish your project.
Did you ever go into any of those change and transformation roles with the recognition of the risk involved of lead transformation
Oh,
projects? And
oh
you're
yeah.
coming in, like you said, as that SME of like, right, I'm going to come in and deliver this. And you have
Mm.
so many moving parts across organizations, and you did it very much like me across organization and countries. So you
Mm.
got cultures, people,
Oh my
and
God.
bringing all
Yep.
that together. Did you ever go in there thinking, wow, this is a lot. This is a high bar, or were you very much like, all right, I'm excited. Like this is what I
Mm.
get up for. What was your approach?
Well, I would say now it doesn't matter to me, but the first time I did a project after, when I was working for Genpack, Genpack is I work for the capital markets. We do a lot of like a lot of tier one investment banking outsource the back and front office to us. So I kind of delve into that role at the moment, as to at that time, at that particular time, as to what works, what doesn't work, and kind of get a feel of consultancy role. But I remember when we were acquiring this business, um, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And that's the first time that I ever done anything like this. I was like, how am I going to integrate, I think it was 6,000 individuals across 10 or 12 locations? How am I going to normalize these policies and processes? How am I going to create a shared services? Where am I going to create the shared services? And imagine just thrown the deep end. I was like, okay, all right, all right, all right. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I was like, all right, the main thing is, let's see what they're trying to achieve here. What are you trying to achieve? You can't just acquire a business and just say, here you go, Kamika. Let's delve into the financials. Um, do we need to save money? Do we need to save costs? What are the other entities within the organization doing? What are their process? Is this the time for us to review that now and making sure that is holistic across the board? So I start looking at onboarding. How do we onboard people? What background system that we should use, or companies, etc. Just delving into the employee life cycle and trying to align holistically really helped me. And also, you're right, being culture sensitive is very much important. And I learned that in a very hard way, because I used to get so insulted. I used to take it personal when I used to speak to individual from different country, the way they spoke to me as a woman. I never I didn't like it, and it really bothered me, and to the point that I was like, I don't want to talk to this person. But then I start building the resilience. Listen, this is what I need doing. This is what needs to be done. Getting the backing from the senior stakeholders before I even go to preempt the reception or the message that I'm going to receive, so that they action their, what I'm asking them to do. And bringing those individuals on a journey, right? Okay, this is what phase one looks like. This is what phase two looks like. This is what phase three looks like. But we cannot get there without you and your support. Get those buy in. Tell them how it's going to change. Tell them how it's going to improve their matrix and decision making across the business, and how it's going to streamline their processes. That kind of help with delivering that message and dealing with those different culture, different people, different rules, different law. You need to, doing the project that I did, you really do need to be versed in employment law. And I realized that. And this is why I did law. I did actually LLB law with BA Honors Human Resources Management, so that I could understand law more and did employment law across European countries. And I did a follow up on African countries, Europe, Middle East, and India as well, the change in logistics of employment law in those countries. So it's constant development, reading, education when it comes to employment law, because you don't want to make a wrong decision that I've seen other people do, talking about disability and collecting DE&I data, which say a country like Georgia, they don't do.
Yeah.
That is just you just don't go there. That's
And
the discrimination asking individuals like that. Just
in
being
Switzerland as well, you don't go there at all.
don't go there, please don't. You will get complained. So that's it. So that's how I navigate those, and that's how I work again across different culture, because when they see that and understand their employment law as well, and
Mm.
understand their needs, they're likely to respect you and buy into your ideas or what you're trying to do.
So was it roles like that and those transformation roles? Is that what's really helped you to be able to be seen? Because you're someone I described as a strategic partner. So the way that you approach things in HR and the role that you hold, you're in that C-suite, you're having the conversations, and there are times when a lot of times HR isn't seen as a strategic partner. So how is that just utilizing your previous skills to be able to give you a voice and give you a seat at that table?
Yeah, so what you will find is trend that pops up across different organization. And once you've done change and transformation, you can see those trends forming so that you can take, you know, you, not you, a lot of organization is reactive, but once you've done change and transformation, you can be proactive. So if I go into a business now, when I took over this role that I'm in now 3 years ago, I preempted everything that would have happened within the first month of me joining, and I was like, okay, this is what you need if you want to continue to be, that employee of choice,
Mm.
right? If you don't make these changes, this will happen to the company, right? And everything that I said, okay, if you don't believe me, why don't we do a survey and see how the employees are feeling? And when I did the survey, everybody thought I must have been talking to individuals to tell them what to say, because most of the things that I preempted is what they said anyway. And that is because, working in change and transformation, working across a multi organization in different location, you see those problems pop up and you address them. So that gives you the experience to preempt that, okay, this is what happened if we do not take actions here or there. And yeah, and I would say 9 times out of 10, my predictions are always right, to the point my HR manager thinks that I'm a psychic. So I don't know, which is crazy. It's not psychic, it's experience of dealing with problems over the years and fixing them.
So if you're in HR and you don't have your change and transformation background, how can CPOs, for example, have a voice at the table and be able to be part of the strategic conversations that drive a business forward rather than just being the people who are executors of the wills
Mm.
and the whims of other people around them?
You know, that's a very good question, because as much as you want to be that strategic partner and be a part of those conversations, be a part of the board, some organizations do not want HR at the forefront of what they're doing because they see us as blockers, right?
Hmm.
And I would say to any person who's in that position, if it was me and I know that my suggestions and my recommendation are not taken on board, I'm not invited to board meetings and they want me to make strategic decision, it's not the company for it's not the organization for me at all. And I know that's very sad to say, right? It's very sad to say. And I said this to someone last year when I was speaking at an event in Barcelona. I said to her, probably it's time to move on because she's trying to make positive change. She's trying to get on the board. We shouldn't want to try to get on the board. right? We should be, what I've done to get on the board is show how data works, what people are saying, what we need to do to address these issues. When it comes to salary benchmarking, when it comes to employee of choice announcement, employee value proposition, DE&I. Get on those initiatives and making sure that you have the data to back it up to say, I'm not saying these things because I'm causing issues. It's because the employee feels the same way. If we can't retain our employees, because the employees are the backbone, no matter what nobody says, not the sales guys, it's the employees or the backbone of an organization. Without them, the operational staff, the non-income generating staff, without them, an organization will cease to exist. You
Hmm.
know, get the recognition for those individual who works hard. Uh, y- uh, and open doors for them and show them. One example, one thing that I did which really worked. I said to this organization that I've worked with, they were trying to make 100 people redundant. I won't say which organization it was. And I said to them, it is such a waste and it's going to be so much costly. Give me some time. Yeah. Give me some time. Let me look at options and then I'll come back to you. Give me about 2 to 4 weeks. Can you give me that amount of time? And I remember that the MD at the time said to me, okay, you want up to 4 weeks? You have two. And within that 2 weeks, it was a multi country organization. I call all of the HR leaders. It was easy for me because these individuals, they travel on mobility. They can go anywhere that they wanted. They were okay with that, and they were going to send them back to the country of origin to terminate them. And I was like, no, 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 just give me some time. I call individual in America, in Australia, even Manila, other entities within the UK, Scotland, etc. And I said, okay, can we look to freeze recruitment? I have about 100 individuals. I have all of their CV. I didn't even have the CV. I just said it because I know when I told them, send me your CV and create a link to the bank of CVs, I will get them. They will do it because we had that relationship where they know that I have their back. Um, and they was like, okay, we do have a roles. I was like, how many roles do you have? And then I schedule a meeting for all of the HR leaders across those different entities within that group of company. And they had about 150 roles available. And I said to them, okay, at that time, thank God, I've just helped them implemented Taleo. So the CVs start coming in, and we put specific skills. I know a lot of people don't like this, but we did a skills matrix. I said to them, let me know your skills and experience for the roles that you do now to see if they're transferable. And Taleo helped with identifying those key skills. In the end, by doing all that exercise, by bringing everyone together, right, it saved the company thousands and thousands of pounds, sending back individual back to their home country, paying redundancy costs and paying off some of the UK entity contract, etc., for them taking up other roles in different countries or in the same location they were at. So if you want to sit at the table, deliver solutions like those that save the company money so that they respect you and see that you know what you're doing. Don't always take no and leave it as that. I would say delve in deeper and say, okay, please give me some time. I know you said no and to go ahead with this, but if I can save some money, can you just give me some time or save the organization some costs? Give me some time so that I can work with find a solution or work out something better for yourself as an organization and for the individual as well. So that's how I bought my seat at that organizational table by having that substantial contribution in saving them that money and saving jobs because they probably would be sued as well because the way that they wanted to do it, if I never stepped in, it would have done in the wrong way because they thought that you could have just do a joint consultation and that was it. I was like, nope, you can't do that. This is how you do it. You know. And if they had had me in the room, and this is, I kept saying that, if you had had me in the room when you were making this decision, I could have told you that that is the wrong way of going through that restructuring. I could have told you, okay, have you considered X, Y, or Z? From that day, every meeting I was in. So there you go. So
And
that's an example.
when you add value, your I guess your work speaks for itself and kind of makes them to recognize that
Exactly.
they're missing that voice. But then I guess you had people who were still willing to listen, even though you're not initially invited. You
Mm,
saw what's happening. You'd be like, no, this is not going to work out for you, and they were willing to listen to that. You
mm,
might operate environments where even with you giving them all the data and you saying this is the wrong move, and they still don't want to engage because
mm.
they think they know better. In those instances, that's where you're like, well, that's not the right environment for you because
Exactly.
you can't help
Exactly.
them, you can't force it on them. So
But I won't be doing it though. If something is wrong, I will not be doing it. I would say, okay, well, these are my recommendation. What you're asking me to do goes against employment law. I am sorry. You need to find someone else to do this because I will not be doing it. Nobody's going to force me to do anything that I don't want to. And if they do decide to fire me, well,
that's
that
what they
will be
will.
a problem for you.
The world right now is wrestling with what I'm going to call polarization, hybrid working, shrinking trust, DI pushback, and AI on top of that.
Hmm.
What is your take right now on the world of HR and how to deal with all these different elements at the moment?
Well, in all honesty, it did not surprise me when the DE&I pushback
Yeah,
came about. And can I just say why it didn't
yeah,
surprise me first, and then I can tell you what I think we should be doing. So when individual start a campaign and the back of something very negative, which what happened to George Floyd, it was horrible, 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 horrible. That's when a lot of people jump on the bandwagon. They didn't understand the struggles that we had to go through. They didn't have live experience, um, and they have no clue to walk in my shoe or another person's shoe. And once you put it down to just race and men against women and brutality or whatever the case may be, I'm sorry to say you're going to fail because it's much more than that, right? It's way more than that. It's much more than that. When you're collecting data to say, okay, are you disabled? What socio-economical community do you come from? What value is that adding? Please, it just does not make sense. When you are discriminating against a particular group uh, to aid another group to come into the organization, that group that is affected is going to hate the decision and is going to rally against those decisions. And that's what happened with the pushback with DE&I. The way it was done with, it was rushed. It wasn't fully thought out. People was not truly supported in some organizations. They thought it was a tick box exercise. Okay, all right, let's offshore some of our, and I'm talking about some tier one investment banking. I'm not going to say names. Let's outsource part of our business to India and hire all women and fire all the white males in the UK. What is that going to do? That is gonna cause division. That is gonna cause hate. That is gonna cause anger. And we're talking about people who are in very senior positions who has influences and who can effect those changes in the economy in the sense they have voting rights. Once you step on their toes, they're more than us anyway, so they probably get the decision that they need. So that was the thing that they did wrong with DE&I, discriminating against individuals to put other individuals, women, men, disability, LGBT, into position. That was the wrong stance. What I've always done, and I've always maintained before George Floyd or whatever, is attracting people, casting a wider net in attracting those individuals. working in partnership with universities that we know that there are bright individuals. I've worked with South Bank. I've worked to put non-Russell Group in. Just take out non-Russell Group. University in the past on graduate programs, training those graduates of how to navigate the corporate world and putting them in different roles. I did a lot of that in Genpack and I did that in Cornerstone Mortgage and Finance, and it worked really well. Bringing those graduates in, training them. So one of the graduates that I did probably roles that I recruited for about 15 years ago, they're VP. So it takes time, right? But when you open the market to every individuals and it's not the same people, that you would attract with yourself, or people tend to like people like them. Once you take out that entrenched negative attitude of your recruitment managers and train and develop them to recognize that bias and not to act on it, it goes a long way. It's more effective, it's more efficient when it comes from a DE&I. And that is my old school way of dealing with DE&I initiative, casting the net, in a wider communities, networking events, working with numerous charities, working with universities, even going on Job Center Plus sometimes looking for individual for admin roles that would never have applied for roles because they think they're not good enough. Making people, it doesn't matter the race or whatever, making people know that the access to employment is there, is fair, and making sure that your organization is saying that too. Is not saying, okay, we're trying to hire 50 women in the next year. How are you going to do that? You know, I can say I'd like to hire 50 women in the next 5 years and bring out a plan where it does not affect anybody at all. I work with business development to look at business product lines, look at what our competitors are doing, create public lines, and create marketing around that to attract the right person to enhance the firm, right? Because a firm can always enhance and offer more products and services to their customers. Look at it from that holistic perspective. Look at it from, you know, a profitability perspective as to can we look at a new product line? Can we look at a product services? And can we hire individuals outside, say women, to fulfill those roles by using the talent we have in-house to train and develop these individuals? It works better. And that I would recommend for any person who's doing DE&I hiring, always have a backup plan in the sense of how the journey of their employees from A to Z, you know, it just doesn't work firing people to hire other people. It just doesn't make sense. Or backfill positions with diverse hiring then, if that's the case.
That's applying strategy to
100%.
solving the problem rather than doing it from a space of emotion. And I completely agree with you. And I've said in the past as well. I mean, a couple of my friends would have conversations like when we saw everything unfolding, we were like, the backlash is going to be worse than what
Exactly.
feels like a recovery because
Exactly.
you are pushing up against so much and a system
Mm,
that has struggled to deal with the little that was being done, whereas been hit all at once, a tidal wave is going to come back and
mm,
swing like a massive pendulum, which is exactly what's kind of happened, which is sad and unfortunate. But like you said, you saw it kind of playing out, which is why I know when it comes like who are the companies that are serious, and if
mm.
they're serious, they recognize it's a strategy, it's a long term plan, it's integrated with their business, and that's the work that needs to be done and the approach that needs to be had, as opposed to just a knee jerk reaction.
Exactly.
But then in that space, then with everything that you've just said, and obviously with with you being able to look at things and evaluate, how do you see the world right now? Because
Hmm.
the AI's there, and it's then been like other elements have kind of ramped up on top of it, and then like I said earlier on, that whole AI as well is one that people are scared of, especially in
Mm,
HR. I know of firms who are completely slashing their HR department and bringing in and utilizing AI, Copilot, things like that to help manage day-to-day tasks. Where some people are like,
Mm,
that's supposed to be
mm,
human. Like, we're getting rid of the human. What's going on here? So how are you
exactly.
seeing all of that?
Yeah, it's from a DNI perspective, I will always be resolute and I will always advocate for, equal opportunities for everyone within the protective characteristic. That goes without saying, right? But in a more efficient and effective manner. Um, it, it is sad that organization that I've looked up to or backtracking in some of their initiative, and it's
Mm,
sad that some committees and that I am part of is dropping the diversity from that because they're scared of this anti-woke sentiment. But it means that it was never, let's use the right word. It did not fulfill the purpose from in the first place. This is why you're changing, right?
it wasn't authentic.
It was not authentic at all. So it is disheartening. And I know people who has cried their eyes out because they're taking off the DE&I, thankfully not my company, off the website, and little mention of it because of retaliation from the US, and they're a US company, and people not feeling safe
Mm,
anymore and feel like they're targeted. And now the old cycle starts again where we have to prove why we belong. Because people think that we came in because they were diversity hiring.
mhm.
Okay, so it's sad, but if we maintain resolute, if we still if we have our head on still to say this is the changes that I would like to impose, knowing that your uniqueness and your power to effect positive change within organization, I think we can break this barrier. It's just a season, but we cannot fall off the bandwagon at all. We still need to stand up for those individuals who are less fortunate in society. you know it's just not right. It brings me back to what I said about honesty and integrity. What is your integrity, and are you really being honest by pushing back on your DE&I initiative? Was it honest in the first place? Ask those questions, and as much as it's bad, push push your agenda to say, I still think we need to do this, but we just need to do it in an effective way. And some of the suggestions that I've said when it comes to AI and HR people losing their jobs, and I've heard stories, and I've delivered talks on the good, bad, and ugly of AI in today's world. I do think HR, some HR, and I'm not criticizing my profession, we're a bit too comfortable. Well, not me, because I'm not comfortable. I always explore other ways or means. Instead of, resisting or fighting against this change, AI will always be AI, right? Why don't we just change our mindset to see what is the best possibly way to utilize AI? Um, but and also speaking to our organization, because I've spoken to my organization. Okay, be careful what you use AI for. We do not want to take the human element out of human resources management. So we have a ATS system that just can take skills and experience. We was like, no, we don't want to do that. Let's look at our candidates manually to see what we're looking at. What we can use AI for is if they've used AI to write their CV, and they've, made up some of the stories that they put on their CV, etc. And I would say 9 times out of 10, they will tell you that the systems will tell you if AI has written their CV. So embrace it in a positive light in how you can eradicate those individuals who are taking advantage of, the recruitment processes, yeah, and putting back the human elements and calling it out for what it is. Educate your organization. I've done webinars and AI and what it means for organization, etc. We do need to educate our organization to tread very carefully how we use AI to make sure that it's not being biased to people and that we are abiding to the Equality Act. So, in all honesty, yes, AI will make things easier for HR or probably, but I just don't see HR not existing because we always need that human interactions when it comes to managing relationships. Is someone going to sit in front of a computer and speak to AI? I'm having a bad day. My dad died today. No. People will come to me, myself, a HR professional that they trust, that they build that relationship to, even not even their manager, but me, to say, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm struggling. Please help me. But it's the relationship that you build within your organization as well. We can't be gatekeepers just for the organization, but also advocating for our employees. And a lot of HR fail to do that. Advocate for your employees, show them that you care, have your interactive session, catch up with everyone on your weekly calls or whatever. Do not lose that human element or else you will be replaced because they're thinking, oh well, she don't talk to me anyway, she don't care, she's just for the organization. You have to be out there really for to stop all of this automatizations and AI because it can't replace the human connection at all.
And one of the things AI definitely can't do is share lived experience the way you have done in this conversation, which has been very refreshing. And we're coming to the end. And just before we wrap up, there's two questions I want to ask you. Throughout your life, your career, all the things you've navigated, what's the biggest thing that you've had to unlearn to help you really grow?
You're testing me today, aren't you? Oh dear, you know what? Oh, the m- I would say the most thing I had to unlearn is to not react straight away because I'm telling you, I react in the sense that very direct, um, and and I have ADHD as well, so not a good combination. But I've learned to evolve myself because I'm very compassionate and I do care about people. But when I think people is crossing, winding, and self pity, I just don't have time for it. Considering the situation. Oh, I just stop it there. Or when everybody thinks that their problem is bigger than everyone else, I just don't have any patience. So my directness and patience, I had to unlearn not being patient and being more patient and being less direct on the spot. But think about it before I address, go away. So now I would say, okay, let me think about it for a minute. I'm just busy doing something. I'll call you back. Which it really does help instead of me saying, are you mad? Are you crazy? Did you really just ask me to do this?
You know what? It's the little things. The little things can make a massive difference
Exactly.
to other people,
Exactly.
but they're hard for us
Exactly.
because we're so like, are you serious in your head? But
Like
out
what?
loud, it's a very different approach. I like that.
Exactly. I remember I sent an email and my HR manager was like, oh my God, Kamika, that was so diplomatic. You're really saying that you're working on yourself. That is so good. Well done. If it was me, I would have said something else. And I was like, I told you I'm working on myself. I'm unlearning that behavior. So yeah, which is a good thing. Sometimes you do
Yes.
need to take things away and
Mm,
digest before you comment. To be honest, it saves you a lot of trouble.
yeah. And my last question then to you would be, how do you define leadership?
I would, for me, how I determine leadership is two things I always says, right? Is making people feel and know that no one is them and that is their power, right?
Hmm.
A lot of individuals think that they're everything and they're a role model to people. They're very good at their job. Yes, we all know you're good at your job, but what are you imprinting on others? How are you making people feel, about themselves when you have the opportunity to uplift individuals? So I always encourage people to look beyond themselves and knowing that they are unique and they have their own unique perspective in life that can add value to any situation. You don't have to be an influencer to have power, and knowing that no one is you and that is your power. You all have your own unique experiences, your unique suggestions, etc. Utilize it. Embrace yourself for who you are, and and stop picking on yourself, and stop being overly critical of yourself to say, okay, I didn't do this good. Okay, I didn't do this good. But next time, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to prepare better for that meeting. I'm going to look at what other people do. I'm going to make sure that I'm all right. When you fall, just pick yourself up, brush yourself, try again, because your unique experience is just so valuable. And I just think that individual, as a for me as a leader, I need to uplift those around me for them to know. The second thing is, I always say to individual, impossible mean I am possible, but take me out of the questions. I always say to them, say it to yourself, right? Because we talk about, oh, how do I get into the boardroom or whatever? How do I get in to show myself and my expertise?
Skills, yeah.
That might seems very impossible to do. But if you analyze the situation, as I did with, when I talk about the redundancy, and know that, okay, that's an impossible situation, sometimes you just need to speak up. If I never spoke up, it would have gone ahead. So speak up, and knowing that nothing is impossible to achieve in life. It's just not. Anything that you want to do that is positive, uh, not the lottery though, because that's something else, right? I'm talking about when it comes to work, when it comes to ethic, when it comes to family life and those things. Nothing is impossible to what you can achieve, to what you can encourage other individuals to achieve, because your word is power and your word all substance. And if you believe that you are possible, or that impossibility turn into possibility, then that is the first step for self actualization, to know that you can break any barriers. And if you do fall over in one of the barriers, next time when you're jumping, to wear the right shoes. Don't wear heels, or something like that. It's just getting to know you as individuals, and encouraging individuals to know themselves and to accept every flaws, perfect what they can, and be honest and open to everyone else.
Well, today we decided to finish this episode with Kamika taking us to church. Um, and I'm here for it. I am 100% here for it, because
Oh
those
dear.
that those are some words of wisdom to wrap this up, and to end on that dynamic of power. For me, is actually quite important, because when I hear you talk about your start, your journey, there's something around you knowing your power and being able to lean into it, and also recognizing that just because things aren't going right now doesn't mean that that's the end of my story. I still have my power. I can still lean in. I still have my values. I can stand firm, founded on them, and those elements have guided and shaped you to high positions that you've held, and you're holding right now. So it's just a testament to be able to come full circle to that statement around power, leadership, ownership, values. These are key elements which fundamentally make us human. And the more you can shine in your uniqueness, the more you are going to stand out, as opposed to trying to fit in. And especially in environments, if you're from a marginalized background, listen to this. In those environments, you're going to shine even brighter. The haters are going to hate regardless, but don't let that dull your shine. So I love that way of being able to kind of end this. I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing all that you have done so candidly and openly. And when I said I'd start, like, the smile and the fun, and in between all of that, there's so many gems that have been dropped. So really appreciate your time and coming on the podcast today.